Here we want to find f prime of x, the first derivative, and f double prime of x, the second derivative. So when we want to find the first derivative, okay, let's first use the product rule. So we're going to let x to the fifth equal g, and e to the x represent h. So g is equal to x to the fifth, and h is equal to e to the x. Step number 2, we know that g prime is going to equal the derivative of x to the fifth, which is 5x to the fourth, and then h prime is going to equal the derivative of e to the x, which is e to the x. Okay, now we want to be able to find the derivative of that function using the product rule. So it's going to be g times h prime plus g prime times h. So we know that g is x to the fifth times h prime, which is e to the x, plus g prime, which is 5x to the fourth, times h, which is e to the x. And so therefore, we end up getting the following. We get x to the fifth times e to the x plus 5x to the fourth times e to the x. So that represents the first derivative. So what we want to do is maybe factor out the e to the x. So this would be e to the x times x to the fifth plus 5x to the fourth. And so therefore that's going to represent our first derivative. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to find the second derivative of this function. Alright, so looking at the first derivative by rewriting it up here, this is the first derivative, which is e to the x, x to the fifth, plus 5x to the fourth. Okay, so now we're going to use the product rule again. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this, let's say, s, and then we're going to call this t. So to find the second derivative, we know that s is going to equal e to the x, and we know that t is going to equal x to the fifth plus 5x to the fourth. We know that the derivative of e to the x is going to be e to the x, and the derivative of t is going to be 5x to the fourth plus 20x cubed. So now when we want to find the second derivative using the product rule, we know that we have s times t prime plus s prime times t. So we know that s is equal to e to the x. We know that t prime is 5x to the fourth plus 20x cubed, plus s prime is e to the x times t, which is x to the fifth plus 5x to the fourth. So let's go ahead and multiply it out and see where we can combine like terms. So we have 5x to the fourth e to the x plus 20x cubed e to the x plus x to the fifth e to the x plus 5x to the fourth e to the x. So we know that this is x to the 5th, so we can write that as the first term. Okay, and then these two terms are like terms, so we can add those to get plus 10x to the 4th e to the x. And then the last term, which is plus 20x cubed e to the x. So now what can we factor out? We can factor out an x cubed and an e to the x, and then what's remaining is x squared plus 10x plus 20, and therefore that represents the second derivative.